Access Live with Kevin Rankin.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming back. It's been a little minute since we've done All Access Live here in the studio. Before we get started, I need to thank my sponsors, these incredible guys at 5-Star Guitars, 5 stars based in Beaverton, Oregon, which means that if you order online, there is no sales tax. You're going to save a bunch of money, especially if you use the promo code seen in the link below. So go to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive and access All Access 15 with the promo code. You'll save 15% on top of the discount with no sales tax. So thank 5-Star for being supportive to me. I just got a nice little gift package from them just prior to going out to California for some gigs this weekend. If you were at our show at the Greek on Friday night or at Mountain Winery in Saratoga on Saturday, I have to thank you so much. It was gorgeous to get back out on the road again. Can't wait to do it soon. We'll be back again in October. And so you can find all that stuff out if you go to kevinrankin.com/calendar. You can see where the shows are. But in the meantime, I need you to do one more thing for me. If you're watching this on anything else other than YouTube, go to the link below. Go to youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin. Hit the subscribe link, and then there's a little bell next to it. Hit the bell. You'll be reminded of all of the upcoming episodes, including next Tuesday's episode with Susie McNeil. You'll know her from her band and time on Rockstar Supernova. I've got the inimitable Curtis Salgado coming up on September 21st. So the original Blues Brother will be right here. We'll be talking about all sorts of recovery stuff and blues and Imposter Syndrome. So this is no imposter. Let me tell you, my next guest I'm really excited about. I've known him for 27 years now, and this is going to be the longest time that we've ever actually been able to sit down with each other because we're always running from in front of each other to or from the stage. So give it up for my friend Michael Beach and Brothers of the Bality. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, Kevin. I'm doing great. I'm honored and humbled.
Yeah, well,
good friend.
We'll see how you feel. No, I'm just kidding. I think I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, you and I used to see each other like many years ago, mid 90s, sorry, when I was rehearsing with the band next door.
Analama,
that's right. Yeah, you lived next door to Leah and Denise Kruger, and you probably can attest to this, that when somebody says, "Oh yeah, my neighbor's a drummer," or "My nephew's a drummer," and you're thinking, "Oh, okay, great," one of those deals. And then when I find out that this drummer is actually incredible and and intimidating because he's so worldly.
Right.
But thankfully, you weren't the intimidating type. You had the chops, but there was this gentle kindness that I remember having with you from the very first time we talked. So. I think that's what the entire planet needs right now, and so I'm excited to have you and your amazing artwork. Look at the artwork on the back wall there. This is beautiful. Michael brought his tie-dye wall just for this,
and that little sun thing right there.
Yeah, that looks a lot better than I look like I'm in a dungeon right now, like I've been put in timeout.
Is that an omen? That's a little thing from space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we. I don't know if you got to see. It's always interesting to see what people have on their backdrop for these kinds of shows, like Kenny Aronoff, right? He's got just platinum records all the way behind me. And I made some comment about, I'm glad that you brought all your platinum records just right there for the screen. And he said, "Oh, got to have someplace to put them." And I said, "Yeah, you've done like 1,300 albums, right?" And he said, 1,300 gold, platinum, and diamond. Like, oh, okay. All right, you win. So I stripped all of my, faux awards off the back now, and I just feel like I'll put myself in the dungeon.
Yeah, no gold records here.
Yeah, it's all right, man. Speaking of gold records and awards and that kind of thing, another brother of the Baladi, which we'll get into the band in a minute. Well, let's actually go back into that. One of the most prominent bands that you've been part of in the Northwest that I had known about was Brothers of Balady, this world music group that you've been with for how long?
Well, I started the band in 1976, living in Yuma, Arizona, of all places.
But you're 38 or 39 now.
39,
Yes,
39. Yeah.
How that? Oh, you had like a time warp back. You went back in time.
Well, I was very, very young. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Yuma, Arizona. That's
Yeah. And it started off as a backing up a belly dancer, a dancer named, her name is Zamara, Sam Marshall. And she had a gig at the Chilton Inn in Yuma, Arizona. And first I went and saw her dance to this thing, plastic thing. It's called a cassette. It kind of, you put it in it. That's for you young people. So first I ran the cassette for her, and then pretty soon I was announcing her, and then I got a doom back, and then we got some guys together, Colby Gerard and Pete Walter and Josh Mertz. And so we had this live show. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had a lot of fun. And every Sunday, I don't know, 7 to 9 or something, we did that. So that was the beginning of the Brothers of the Baladi. In fact,
can I interrupt really quick?
Yeah.
You talked about playing the tape behind Zamara. Stylistically, I mean, I know that there are a bunch of different genres or regions that people will belly dance to. So what region was she dancing to?
Oh, just North American belly dance.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't anything specifically traditional.
Okay.
She was traditional, but yeah, it was just. And she had these albums on a cassette, so we tried to emulate them a little bit. We weren't that great at it, but we had a great time, and that was the beginning. In fact, real quickly, the name Brothers of the Baladi, Josh Mertz. He was our MC. We called him the theatrician, because he would introduce us every week, and he'd welcome everybody. And one night he turned around, because he had names on his hand, and he put his hand out. You can't see my hand, but he turned around. He said, "And please welcome brothers," and it just came to him, Brothers of the Baladi. It came to. He calls it dandruff lines. It just kind of popped off the top of his head. Well, so that was the beginning of the Brothers of the Baladi.
What is the Baladi?
Baladi is an Arabic word. It means country or folk or people, homeland. All right. So when you talk about real Baladi music, it's the traditional folkloric music of the Middle Eastern world.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's where that came from. So that was phase one of the Brothers, backing up Zamara in Yuma, Arizona.
Okay. This is pretty cool. Speaking of world music, I see that there are people from all over the world right now in the chat. We've got Claudia from Germany. Hi, sweetie. Nice to see you. Robin from Fairbanks and Gaston, Oregon. We've got couple of triangles around the world.
Yeah,
nice.
Nice.
Good to see you, Mike Klaus, Nikki from Gaston. That's great. So at that point in Yuma, the three of you were backing up your dancer.
Right.
Did you build this? I mean, obviously the brothers are the
I left in 78.
Okay. You had enough of Yuma?
By then I was barely 40.
Right.
Yeah. No, I left there and ended up in the Northwest, and just happened to be in Grants Pass, Southern Oregon. And that's where I met my musical partner of 12 years. That was Joseph Pusey. Okay. And that's an interesting story too, because he was a really talented solo musician, mainly folk and Celtic, and he had his own solo album. Hadn't touched Middle Eastern before. So we came together. It was just like magic. We were incredible, incredible together. And that happened we were doing a benefit. I remember it was the SOCATS, Southern Oregon Committee Against Toxic Sprays.
Oh, okay.
Outside of Grants Pass. And the guy came back. He said, "What are you calling yourself?" And I looked at Joe and I said, we used to be Brothers of the Baladi. You want to keep that? He said, "Sure." So that was the phase 2 of Brothers of the Baladi. And that's where we really took off. Joseph and I really, as a duo, put out 3 albums. And that was before, that was when no white folks were playing Middle Eastern music.
Sure.
So we were a rare commodity.
And Grants Pass of all places, which is
but we traveled everywhere. Okay. We were all over North America, and we were playing for dancers mainly, but we were also doing our own original music and getting into rock and folk and and multi-instrumental.
Okay.
That's we're on the road like all the time. We'd take off in our 40 Conline van named Bertha with hardly any tires, and it had a 3-speed on the column with a broken stick. You have to use a glove because you cut your hand.
Sounds like
No odometer, no speedometer.
that's pretty close to what we travel with the flock of seagulls too, man. I'm just saying, really not far from it. But when you were booking those shows, you mentioned that you'd back up different dancers. So did you book it as Brothers of the Baladi?
Yeah.
And then contact people ahead of time to say, hey, you're a dancer in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We're gonna be there. We'll back you up.
Actually, they found us because everybody kind of knew, within this niche of people, especially the dance world, we were like, we were everywhere, and because there weren't many albums out then. We had these 3 albums, so I will say our inspiration was a duo out of California called Sirocco. These 2 guys, Armando Fuaca and Suleiman Feldhaus, who was the original with David Lindley of Kaleidoscope, the 60s band called the Kaleidoscope.
Sure.
Anyway, so they were an inspiration for us because they were doing it before us. And we just took off. We were like electric. We were everywhere, playing everywhere for a zillion dancers, and a lot of fun.
What was the goal at that point? Was it just to see the world and kind of express,
I don't think we had a goal.
Okay.
We did want to get our original music out, and Joseph had written lots of original tunes. And that brings us to the next part, because then in 88 or 89, that's when we brought in J. Michael Kersey.
Yes, Kersey.
And that's when we became this trio, and the 3 of us, oh my God, because now it turned into this, in fact, we called it global rock. Okay. That's what we ended at, global rock, because Joseph would play guitar or electric saz, the Turkish stringed instrument, or the oud, and then Kersey on bass and me on kit. And we were friggin' rocking, man. We were playing, Middle Eastern songs with rock and rock with Middle Eastern, and we were all over the place. And yeah, Michael really changed things for us because it took off.
He's I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, But,
oh yeah.
As you know, I hadn't met him through you, but he and I were on the board of directors for Oregon Music Hall of Fame I was on for 7 years, and
nice.
I think it's like the pandemic now. I haven't seen anybody for a while except for local shows, but I knew that there was always a conflict of interest because neither Michael and I were on this voting board for inducting bands into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, really?
I got involved. Well, maybe Michael was. I'm not sure. I know for me, they asked me to come in because the premise, not only was it to honor bands that have made a huge impact in Oregon or bands that were from Oregon, but they would provide scholarships for kids.
I know they do that. Yeah.
And so for me, being able to award these scholarships and to really promote music education, watching music programs get killed from schools was devastating to me. And having kids at that point, I really wanted to make sure I supported them. So I knew Michael was really involved in that part too, but we would talk about bands like the Brothers of the Baladi that were everywhere, iconic. I mean, the band was like a staple for the Northwest. And I remember seeing the band at big shows. I mean, you would do like festivals, and then you do like, the Lebanese restaurant El Amir, right? You guys would do a little thing down in El Amir. And so at this point, I mean, I've been off the board for a few years, but have the brothers yet been inducted in the Hall of Fame?
The Hall of Fame. Well, funny you should mention. No, we're one of those bands that are kind of world known especially in our little sphere. But people in Portland don't know about Brothers of the Baladi, even though we've been out there touring, even Europe too, all over North America, Canada, Europe, and selling. We got 12 albums and 2 Grammy nominations, and we're still selling lots of records and songs, online. But no.
Okay.
Well.
Guys, if you're out there if you're a voting member of the Oregon Music Hall of Fame, make sure. I know for sure that the name had come up through the ballot process, and they would bring in the announcement to us on the board, and say, okay, so these are the members that are being inducted this year, and it never failed that I would get calls or emails from somebody, two or three artists, some of them repeatedly every year, saying, "Man, what's up with that? You guys didn't
Oh
vote me
yeah,
in." I said, "Well, I wasn't part of it." In
yeah.
fact, I'll be completely honest with you, and I would say that you're very. It'd be very appropriate for you to be nominated and inducted. But for me, saying that one band was more worthy than another is kind of like saying one painter is more,
Sure, sure.
is better. And I like it's just like the music TV shows that are competitions. If they're doing original music, it's really it really bothers me, to say that one artist is better than another, and especially like in world music, right? So the stuff that you're doing, well, I don't want to give away Curtis Salgado's mention, but he just mentioned this to me that he said he was inducted in this huge blues award. I don't remember if he said that they were at the Apollo Theater. He's got Bootsy Collins on one side. I think Albert King was on the other side, and he's up on stage being, awarded this award for blues. And he said, "Man, you know what? I knew that the voting board for that blues award was all white, right?" And he said, "How am I supposed to go up there knowing that I derived all of my inspiration from these guys?" And so he said he got up and gave homage to them.
Right.
For you guys, if a world music organization, somebody doing Middle Eastern music, world rock, goes up against
Global rock.
global rock. Oh yes, I like that. Now that we're sort of expanding into Mars, and we're going to have like interstellar rock, right? So that's my thing. I've been trying to get a Flock of Seagulls to be the first band to perform in space.
Oh, right.
So Elon Musk, if you're listening, dude, that's what I want. But anyway, back to you. The I don't know. I don't even remember the qualifications, other than I know that it had to be a band that was either based in Oregon or had relocated, that had a massive impact on music in like 20 years. That's certainly the case for you guys. You've got the albums, you've got the reach, you've got the recognition, and a lot of fan base. I mean, obviously, you've got a fan base here in the chat. I see
People are talking here. Yeah.
They are, yeah. Michael says, or Guy Masson says, "Your music is magical." Judy had it. Judy Moonbeam says, "Yeah, global rock." Now Jerry said that you and Joseph were magical. Rest in peace. So Joe passed
Yeah,
away.
Joe died, but he left the band in '91.
Okay.
He died in early 2000s, but he left the band in '91, and I was devastated because we were like brothers beyond brothers. But Michael was there, and we just regrouped. I said, "What am I going to do? Move on." So we did, and there's been many people sit in that chair, great players, and that's when we really took off too. That's when we really started touring all over, even more than when Joe and I were doing it.
Okay.
Because when Joe and I were doing it, it was a little more belly dancing and smaller shows. We weren't doing anything big.
Sure.
But with Michael, because Michael, Michael was just, he was there, coaching me and pushing, and he's the one that turned us on to Michael Shreve too.
Really?
Because Michael ended up producing our fifth album in '95, the Eye in the World album. Because
Right.
Michael knew Michael. That's another story. Because Michael, and we went into Rex Studios, and one of the engineers was Michael. I was like, "Michael, meet Michael. This is Michael."
Yeah,
And
man.
so that was
nickname.
the Michael Shreve album, and so yeah, Michael's been my partner this whole time, and many people have come and gone, and it's taken on, and I enjoy that, because some people. The thing with the brothers that's been difficult is that you can't just get a guitarist. If someone quits a band, you find another bass guitar. I wanted someone. How many people out there play saz or oud or mizmar or nobody,
Yeah.
and can rock, and are willing to go on the road and take this. So that's been my my thing, trying to, because I wanted that ethnic thing in there, because we're doing all these songs. I'm singing in 7 languages, and we're doing all this wacky stuff, but still trying to make it danceable and rock. So
I love that. When I read the languages that you perform in, I thought, where do you get to the point where you're already singing in 6 languages and you think, oh, you know what, we really need a song in Farsi, right? So, how does that come about? Is it that you find traditional songs that are?
Well, the thing is, Kevin, I fell in love with this music because I have no music background.
Really?
I grew up nothing.
Wait a minute. Are you kidding me? You didn't have
No, I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York.
Right.
No music background. I wanted to be a drummer. Maestro snare drums, the plastic snare drums. You know what they are?
I don't, but
it's
I
a
certainly
plastic kitty drum, and I really wanted a drum kit. My parents would, so they got me this. It's hanging on my wall. It's a Maestro plastic. I know Don Worth has one. Anyway, and that's all I got. So I took some rudiment drum lessons, marching drum lessons, but I wanted to play drums because music, rock and roll was there.
What year was that?
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you what changed my life. One of the things that changed my life was picking up my best friend Bob Henwood from school every day. And one morning, because it was 64,
that's what I was thinking.
One morning, I go to pick him up, and his sister Sherry has a 45. She puts on, and it's "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks.
Oh yeah, right.
And I'm telling you, Kevin, man, that thing went on, and it went. Oh man, it just blew my brains out, and I knew that's what I want to do.
Okay, so
the original "You Really Got Me," yeah.
64. I mean, that, of course.
That's when it came out, because she had just gotten the 45.
Most drummers that I've had on the show that talk about the life-changing moment in 64 was, of course, the Beatles on Ned Sullivan's show.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
but there has been, I just know recently, people have really brought up the Kinks as being this inspiring driving force, and kind of got overshadowed by the Beatles. But I think that's really great because that band in its early form,
oh man,
it was so raw and and pretty dangerous for the era. So, and that's probably what attracted you too, right? Because that song is and
I so that really opened my eyes. But if you can dig this, I didn't play drums until I was 26.
No kidding.
Nothing, no music. I mean, I loved it and listened and absorbed it, and got off on in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
But until I was in Yuma, and that was just kind of Middle Eastern, and I really didn't play kit until I was about 26 when I was with Joseph.
Amazing.
And a really funky piece of crap drum kit, but.
I mean, we all start on those, unless entitled. I mean, I think there's something pretty magical about being able to build and craft something that you perform on, and I love every time I've seen you perform, you've got a different setup, right? You've added more cymbals, you've got more percussion instruments involved, and it's always been really cool for me. I feel like I walk into a music store and see your kit, and I think so. The magical part about assembling that is that you certainly can emulate, the drummers that you grew up watching. But for me, I loved having to go to Salvation Armies, right? And trying to find maybe, some piece of crap plastic kit, but try to make it sound good and add things to it, and so for me, I grew up in Montana, out in the woods, right? We grew up in a cabin, and I didn't have enough money for cymbal stands, but I had all these crappy broken cymbals that I bought from places like, St. Vincent de Paul.
Right.
I hung them from ropes on the rafters and crash, and then they come back and swing it and have to duck so they didn't hit me. But I look back on that now, and I think I'm really convinced that sort of I don't want to say struggle, but I mean it really, having to do that made me appreciate it more, So being a music appreciator that you talked about, just being obsessed with music and loving music and absorbing it, and then getting into drums later and Middle Eastern music, were you listening to a lot of Middle Eastern music at that
Well,
point when you got to Yuma, or was it
yeah,
just
no, I never even knew what the Middle East was.
okay?
Seriously, no
You're-
ethnic background whatsoever. I'm Mr. American.
Were you
But
watching belly dancers and said,
yeah,
okay,
but what I did, what Zamara, I listened to her CDs. It wasn't even CDs then, the cassettes, and I heard this music, and I just went, wow, this is cool stuff. Singing, in Arabic and Turkish and Farsi and everything, and I fell in love with it. And I really know the music really well because I know it very well, and I sing it. And my thing has always been to be able to sing it so that natives can walk in the room and go, wow, and sing along and understand me. And I'll even say to them afterwards, did you understand? And I even say it in their language. Did you understand that? And 95% of the time, because I'm never going to be one of them.
oh, of course, yeah.
Can never do that. But my thing has always been to really try very hard for the vocals, for the lyrics, and to get the words right instead of just singing blaga blaga boo boo.
Have you ever had like a Turk come in and say, "Hey, listen, man, nice try, but no, that's." Have you ever been heckled?
No, never been heckled.
Good.
No, never been heckled. I've asked people before, and they'll say, about the least is I didn't understand a couple words you were saying, but
Sure.
And to me, and that's the funny thing, Kevin, is I ended up being more comfortable singing in foreign languages than in English.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because you didn't feel like
No, I don't know. Because I sang in these languages for so long.
Man, I love that.
And then that's one thing that Kersey and I did was we would take a song and we would take a Turkish song and translate it, try to turn it into English, and then sing a verse in Turkish and rewrite it so that it's poetic in English. So you sing a verse in Turkish and the verse in Arabic or Turkish, back and forth, so that people could understand. Because my thing with Brothers of the Baladi has always been trying to bring this music to people, for people to listen and maybe dig a little bit, and
turning them on to something new is
exactly
really, it's amazing. I'm trying to think of the diplomatic way to not diss some of my countrymen. Right, I grew up in Montana.
Yeah.
But at one point I was playing in a reggae band. All 4 members were white and playing ski resorts and like national parks and stuff like that. And I tried to seem, to play as authentic as I could, but it really ended up being like Stuart Copeland doing reggae. It was just very, very, very white, very square.
Sure.
Not that Copeland's not awesome, but
No.
it was a completely different thing. And I mentioned Imposter Syndrome when I was introing, about Curtis Salgado. And for a long time, I struggled with that because I felt like, I felt bad that I would collect people's, money when they come in because I really wasn't playing this completely in an authentic way. And it depended on where we were at, because people came because they wanted to hear reggae. Then they were at they're at a ski resort. They're just wanting to have fun.
Yeah.
And so I never got heckled with that. But for me, I was always full of self-doubt. When you're playing and you're touring and you say you go overseas, I think you'd probably be the first to agree that people overseas seem to be so much more appreciative of anybody performing,
Oh, yeah.
Did you have anything like in the Midwest where people said, wait a minute, what is this?
Well,
Middle Eastern?
Yeah, I had it a lot in many places. It wasn't just the Midwest. And in fact, to be honest, Kevin, 9/11 really kind of put a big whammy to Brothers of the Baladi. Michael and I agree. Because I ended up, I'm not Middle Eastern. I'm not Muslim, but these people they didn't want to hear it. And not sales, but bookings went not down, but slowed down. We were with an agency out of San Francisco, a really good one, Dynamic Artists, for a couple of years, and they even said that we were too. The feedback was we were too ethnic for American audiences, and not ethnic enough for for native audiences. So it really 9/11 really put a damper on the brothers, and it was hard to get bookings because I lived for the brothers. It was my baby, and so really, yeah.
You know, man, I mean that's an interesting thing that the pandemic impacted so many artists of all kinds, right?
Everybody.
And I mean the whole entire planet, every person on the planet's been affected in one way or another, primarily negative. But I know that a lot of the conversations I have in the show are people that have felt like it's a major identity crisis because what we do as artists is often identified. It's represented who we are, right? I mean and so strip away who we are, and what do we have left? And it, you know, like everybody, I mean, mental health has really been a real struggle for a lot of people. After 9/11, I hadn't thought about that. You know, we certainly saw tons of attacks on
because of the Middle East,
right. But the fact that people that would be coming to your shows, you would hope would still be, you know, open-minded enough, you know, not fearful. But I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? It's all about fear. That's
fear.
You know, all the attacks, just like, you know, attacks on Asians, you know, after the coronavirus started to spread, and they were saying it was the quote unquote China flu. You know, when you get that kind of stuff out there in the media and all these attacks on Asians, you know, and it's completely misplaced, right? And that's all about fear.
Yeah.
So how did you bring it?
We're a big festival band, and I talked to some of the promoters, and they said, you know, to be honest, when I have to choose between a rock band and a blues band and a reggae band and an African band and then a Middle East, I just don't think it's appropriate now. And I heard that a lot. You know,
how'd you bring it back?
I didn't. it kind of, you know, we kept going, and the brothers are sort of alive. We're still selling records, but around 2018, I kind of lost. I remember I talked to you when I saw you too. I was tired of the struggle.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if we're still around, but we're not playing any gigs. But we were never a Portland band. We were never a bar band, except for back in the day we played Key Largo. Yay, Tony.
Yeah. Man, you know, Tony DiMiccoli, guys, if you're watching this, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Michael, but people on the chat, if you're not from this area, you know, you've heard me talk about this guy a lot. This man, like Terry Courier from Music Millennium, was really responsible for this cultural hub of music that Portland has had that's known worldwide. For Tony owned clubs, he managed bands back in the day. He still manages and books a lot of the festivals that happen through here, even though that guy should be retired by now for his sake, right? I mean, like, because it's such a struggle. This gig is so not for the faint of heart, and that guy really has given his heart and soul. And so I've tried to get him on this show, and he's not yet returned my call. So if you're out there, grab a hold of Tony, because he's got stories for days.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
I got a great one for about Tony, because I relocated to Portland in 87. Yeah, 87. So, and Joseph was living in Corvallis. So I went to Tony one day. I said, you know, Brothers of the Baladi, and he said, well, yeah, this is cool. I like this. We'll have you do an opening set from 8 to 10, and then I'll get another band. And I said, oh, but we have another band too. We have a rock band. Now, Joseph and I had a rock band in Southern Oregon called Sonic Voyeur. Okay. It was the two of us, and we brought in people, and, you know, because we were tight. So we had like 2 weeks Tony believed me. So we had about 2 weeks. We got a bass player. I don't know. We got a couple people together. So the brothers opened up for Sonic Voyeur, like, I think it was every Wednesday for many, many months.
Really? Nice. Okay.
So Tony, there you go, man.
Double paychecks for you, man. That's not too bad.
Because we made so much money. Yeah.
God, you know, and at that point too, I mean, Portland was popping, right? 87, 88, that city was going crazy.
There was so much music everywhere. Well, it's been like that for many, many years.
It's true, but I think that was the point really where Portland, I feel like, got put on the map, because Robert Cray had really blown this area up, but then, Quarter Flash and New Shoes and the Dan Reed Network and all these bands that at that point were getting tons of MTV play, right? I mean,
Yeah.
mid to late '80s, all of a sudden gave Portland, this visual aspect. And I'm going to back up for a second, man, because I was just thinking about some of the members you had come into the Brothers of the Baladi and people that sort of brought new life or new breath of energy or just a different perspective.
Yeah, that's what I liked.
You and I together spent some time with one of my favorite people on the planet the other day. You had Meryl Hale come in for something.
Yeah.
So as you guys, if you don't know in the chat, Meryl's my best friend on the planet, guy that really took over the gig that I came out from Montana with.
That's
and
right.
Incredible drummer and really like stylistically had a really diverse interest. But tell me a little bit about the experience that you had with him.
Well, I'm not sure who introduced me to. Was it you? I don't know.
Yeah,
we were without a drummer for a couple gigs, and I called him, and so we did a couple gigs together, and then because he was playing with Ramble On, the Led Zeppelin band,
right?
So they said, "Hey man, let's do this concert with the Brothers of the Baladi and Ramble On, and we will recreate the Zeppelin album." When they brought in the ethnic bands.
Oh, well, you had Song Remains the Same.
But the album, the Plant and Page. Yeah, with the Middle Eastern band.
Oh, wait, when you guys did Kashmir?
Yeah, but the name of the album was when Plant and Page put out an album called, I can't say it.
Well,
anyway, they put an album out and they brought in all these Middle Eastern and ethnic bands. So the brothers did a set. Ramble On did a set, and then we did this set together. We kind of recreated the Zeppelin thing with the Middle Eastern band.
Physical Graffiti.
No,
it wasn't it.
Like it was just Plant and Page.
Okay.
And when we saw Merle, he told me the name, and I can't say it. No Quarter.
No Quarter. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
No Quarter.
All right.
I've done a zillion really, really great gigs at many big festivals and big stages. That goes down as one of my top. We did it at Alberta Rose. Packed. It was so much fun. Those guys were so great, and we recreated that No Quarter album. God. It was just killer. Kashmir and all the really classic, but we had a Middle Eastern thing going on, playing Mizmar and.
Oh man, yeah,
love those guys.
They're amazing. And, we know that Meryl won't be watching this podcast because he never does. As much as I guilt him, he's got other things to do. But Ramble On guys are close to my heart for sure.
Oh, man.
We did a podcast with them from Santa Fe. I was mountaintop, and it was so funny because there was no reception up there at all. So I kept losing service, but they were all on video, different. They were talking amongst themselves on the screen. So I'd come back 10 minutes later and they're still there just chatting away. They pretty much just hosted the podcast by themselves. But,
yeah, they were. So
the last few years then, before we go on to like what you've been doing the last few years, let's just talk about some of that travel. Because for me, that's such a huge part of what sort of nourishes my spirit. When I'm out with music, there's nothing better than getting to meet people around the world, getting to explore places that I may not have been able to afford to go to primarily. Yeah. So tell me about some of the destinations that just rocked your world.
Well, we did California a lot. We did a lot of the West Coast. California was twice a year and all through the Northwest. Went back east several times. Did England twice. Those were really good ones too.
I'll bet.
Like all over, like, I don't know, 2.5 weeks, playing all kinds of, from teeny pubs to cool clubs. And
when you did those, were you working with an agency or did you book them on your own?
We booked it ourselves.
Okay, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, booked almost everything. I booked myself, except for a couple years there where I was always trying to find someone to help me book the band. Yeah. Nobody, it was hard. How do you book a world music band, the band singing in 7 languages with sazas and mizmars and guitars? it's a different band.
I
So
would imagine.
that's why I say, you know, I got tired of the struggle of trying to get something going, trying to make it happen. So that brings us to kind of what I'm doing now. So, you know, the brothers aren't dead, and again, we're still very much alive in records and on the internet. Again, 12 albums, and
Jeez.
yeah, that's a lot of albums.
It's a sabbatical, but when you decided to go, okay, I'm going to pause because it's exhausting to try and book this stuff, especially when I'm going up against maybe some resistance from people that don't yet really feel comfortable booking Middle Eastern music. Um, but you had this fire to keep playing. Then you were just
Yeah, you know, to be honest, Kevin, I never say I'm gonna go on for a pause. Just kind of happened,
yeah,
which is kind of like my whole life. You know, I didn't have any background and, you know, no training or anything. I was just at the right place at the right time. And I really attribute it to meeting the right people at the right time, you know,
yeah,
people who were important in my life. I mean, Zamara, I would have never, you know, this dancer, she just started the whole thing. Joseph was, man, we were just like, boom. And Kersey and many people, but the right people. I attribute a lot of everything that I've done to right people, right time, just good chemistry and luck. So I never, to back to what you said,
yeah.
I never planned for us to go on hiatus. We did a show in 18 in Portland, and I couldn't get any more gigs, so I just kind of kept playing. I got my drum kit out and started playing regular music.
Regular, yeah. You had some message. I think it was in your bio. You had said something about like normal or yeah, like
Yeah, because so
yeah,
many people don't know that I'm a regular drummer.
right. Yeah, I didn't for a while,
And
but
you were one. People
yep.
didn't, because actually, Kersey and I played in a trio with Lee Blake. He's a local blues rock guy. We did that for about 10 years in the 90s. So I was doing other gigs too around the brothers. So, but I've always been a lover of regular music, you know, American music, and playing drum kit. Because in the brothers, I never played drum kit. I
Right.
fronted the band, played doumbek, played weird instruments, and sang and was the lead singer. And so I never played kit in the brothers.
Sure.
And now, man, I'm loving my playing kit. It's like when I saw you, I'm just really man,
Yeah.
playing rock and roll and blues and
You had Phil Garfinkel up there, man.
yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
The
So what's that?
roadless, the Roadless Travelers.
That's
Yeah,
I love that.
great band. Phil Garfinkel
Yep.
and Bill Chapin, great guitarist,
Fantastic
and
guitarist.
Chris
Yeah.
Chris P.
Okay.
Petrzik. We joke because nobody can say his name right.
Yeah. You
And
know, coach him
4P.
you have to coach him and say, man, if you're in rock and roll, you got to change your name so that it can fit on the marquee.
Chris P.
Yeah, there you
Chris
go.
P.
Yeah. Oh, crispy. I like. Uh, you know, the nice thing about that is having the pressure off. I'll bet, right? Just
Yeah, man. Yeah.
like
And I didn't think about that, but it's true. You know, I'm not just the sideman at all because I'm really involved with that band. But it's really nice to just enjoy, no pressure. I don't have to pay people because of the brothers. You know,
yeah.
I'm always thinking I pay people no matter what. Book the gigs, motels, blah 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 blah, promotion.
It
So,
wouldn't have been nice to just have somebody handle all that.
oh
You know,
yeah,
like you know, I there are some funny, parallels. Actually, I mentioned A Flock of Seagulls. Our singer does everything. He just doesn't. He knows the business. He's done it since '78. So he books the shows a lot of times through an agency, but it's pretty much him. When somebody will say, "Oh yeah, I talked to your manager," and I'm like, "We don't have a manager. It's him," And he pays the guys and arranges, for transportation and all that. But I told him, I said, "Would you appreciate the gig more if you had some of that pressure off?" And he wouldn't. I mean, it's something that part of it is just he knows that if something goes wrong, it's on him.
yeah.
But
If it's
but
right, he did it.
it's his thing, and I understand that
Yeah.
completely. but for the love of just being able to perform. When I saw you the other day, it was for Customer Appreciation Day with
Yeah.
Music Millennium there with Terry Courier.
Very good.
I got asked just a couple of days prior to that, well, just, to do this gig with Steve Wilkinson at like Wilkinson Blades and Friends. And
Yeah.
it was an honor to play with them. I'd never played with them before. I love those guys. And for me, getting to play something for Terry meant everything. And,
Oh,
we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, and being on stage, just having this synergy, between people that are out in the crowd. It
right on.
meant it. I mean, it really like would bring me to tears, and there's a new fire for me this weekend. I mean, I was on a high all weekend long. We had these amazing shows in LA and Saratoga, Cali, and it was a reminder that this is what I was put on this planet to do, man.
Yeah.
And so for you, let me tell, yeah, let me hear your sort of reflection on maybe what the pandemic did in terms of your appreciation for playing.
We didn't play a lot, but the Roadless Travelers started rehearsing, and we weren't off that much. We rehearsed with masks in my studio with lots of room for a long time, and so it kept playing for the most part. And then I'm playing with another band too called Radio Remedy. It's a cover band, a pop cover band. I've never been in a pop cover band before, but and we did a little bit of rehearsing there too. But yeah, it was definitely something else. But I wasn't blown out because I kept pretty active.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's great to hear. There are a lot of people that really just
Oh yeah.
struggle to find themselves.
Yeah.
Well, then let's talk fun stuff. I was talking about travel, bucket list gigs. Where's a place that you played that you thought, okay, if it all ended today, this gig in particular, like you mentioned Alberta Rose being one of your top favorites. Is there a venue or some gig that you thought, oh man, that if I didn't have it on my bucket list before, that would have been it?
Vancouver Folk Festival
Okay.
in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
Killer show. Yeah.
I mean, the city is amazing too.
It's a
And,
great festival. It's not just folk either. They do everything. So
and
that was
when-
huge stage and huge crowd and a lot of bumper shoots. We did bumper shoot for years.
Nice.
Well, and the other thing too is Joseph and a guy named Leo de Flambeau, and I started the original Gypsy stage at the Oregon Country Fair back in '79 or something like that.
Okay.
So we started that. So that was another thing we did every year, and we played for dancers. So that was a thrill for many years. Oh, I've been so lucky. I've had such a blessed.
Okay. You say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Blessed is one thing. When you say lucky, and I said that for a long time too, and then I started thinking about luck versus fortune, and I've changed it to be feeling like I'm very fortunate because, yeah, there may be some circumstantial things that happened to you, right? When you met Zamora and you're in Yuma and just sort of and it's not that you just happened into those bands, but you manifested stuff, right? I mean, you
That's
really, and so the manifestation is really not luck, right? Because you kind of make your own luck in a certain way. And the fact that you talked about being in the right place at the right time, if you weren't prepared for that right time,
right,
then it wouldn't work, right? And
right.
Every once in a while, I'll have folks that are here watching the show that they might ask, I want to play music for a living, but I don't know where to start, or how do I get a gig? I mean, I'm a great drummer, but I don't know how to get into a band. And you and I both know that. And I've said it over and over again. People that have watched this show a bunch, you're going to hear it again. 90% of the gig is the hang. I mean, there's an element that you got to get the foundation. You got to get your chops together. You got to get your musical foundation and vocabulary together. But if you're an asshole, you're not going to be in an ensemble. Nobody's going to want to work with you.
Absolutely.
The hang is so important, right? And how do you teach the hang? Well, you can teach some social skills, right? A lot of it is trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Would that person want to hang out with me on the road 24 hours a day in a van, driving through, some stinky, like spot? But the reverence that you have for your bandmates is obvious.
Oh.
Right? It's really apparent, and
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah, especially the last band, because it was Kersey, Clark Salisbury, and Charles Pike. And
Oh man,
you know Charles, yeah,
I
you
love
know.
Charles, man. Yeah, Charles was my son's drumline instructor, and also and really saved the day. My son owes some real self worth to Charles because he had a pretty shitty instructor prior to that. Charles came in, took over, so I was glad. Charles is also playing with Bill Wadhams from Animotion, and so
Right,
yeah,
right.
I feel like we have a
Yeah.
we have brothers. Anyway, derailed
He's a
again.
sweetheart of a guy.
Sure
So
is.
he played on that last. Our last album was in 2016,
Okay.
Gravity of Love, and Charles played on that. So
You've got all those links to get down here on the Baladi.com.
yeah, Balady.com, everything, and everything's on YouTube too,
Cool.
including the Christmas album.
Tell me about the Christmas album.
We did a Christmas album, man, in 2001 and 2, something like that. Traditional Christmas songs,
Okay.
no vocals, all instrumentals, and not Frosty the Snowman stuff. Traditional Christmas songs. We played them with traditional acoustic Middle Eastern instruments. No drum kit, no keyboards, all traditional instruments, strings and flutes and all kinds of things. They are killer. It's one of our biggest selling albums.
Really?
It's called A Time of Peace.
Okay.
It's a great album especially for Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah,
like you could use it any time of year, man.
yeah, any time of year.
Peace
But
sounds pretty good.
yeah, it's one of my favorites. But because it's got a different sound for Christmas.
Yeah.
In fact, putting that out was one of our jokes was, Middle East, what's Christmas got to do with the Middle East? Or people would say, Christmas, what's that got to do with the Middle East? Duh.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it.
Ethnocentrism, I think that's it, right? And that's I had two questions for you. Number one, I was going to put you on the spot. I was going to ask you to grab an instrument for me and play some traditional rhythms. I didn't ask you to do that before. So do you have something handy, and if not?
Oh, I don't have anything handy. I could tell.
Okay. All right. I should have prepped you for it, but I wanted to be spontaneous. When I think about, Middle Eastern music, as a rock. Oh, there it is.
It's called Malfouf.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
I can. Yeah. So you've got your, and you use kick drum.
And my left foot is in the hi-hat.
Okay.
And the kick drum is on my right. So that's one of the most common
Okay.
traditional Middle Eastern rhythms, Turkish, Arabic, everywhere.
I love it.
And using Latin. It's sort of like the Latin rumba too.
Okay. Rumba. I can hear. I can picture hips swinging, to a belly dancer right there with that. The other question I was going to ask you about was, did you work with Tim Ellis at all in the past?
Never worked with. Oh wait, no, we did. We started to work with Tim Ellis. We were doing a play. So I've done a bunch of different plays too, music theater.
Mm-hmm.
We started to work with that, and I don't know what happened to that. I knew him fairly well, but
Yeah.
I can't say that we really worked together. No, I know of him, and I know that he was brilliant. Yeah.
Sure, he was. Again, guys, if you're watching this and you don't know, Tim, I attribute a lot of, I think, progress in my performance to Tim Ellis. He was this phenomenal guitarist who, first person I met who truly played music for a living. Not only did he play music for a living, but he had 5 children that he was putting through Oxford, and took care of his kids and his wife playing music. He owned a recording studio, and he would do 4. He was a music director of 4 different churches. So he'd go off and he'd do services where he'd music direct those gigs, and then he'd race off to a club and he'd play a rock gig, and then he'd race off to do some other recording session. So he was doing 3 and 4 gigs a day, and it blew my mind. He had more energy than anybody I'd ever met. And
That's wild.
And he had a real appreciation for all styles, including Middle Eastern music. He turned me on to a lot of stuff that I'd never heard before, and that's why I thought he had to have
Oh,
worked with you in some capacity. But
no,
uh,
never did. No.
I at some point I'll get his daughter on this show because she did this phenomenal documentary about her dad that just
Oh,
was released.
nice.
I think it was in Sundance last year, just prior to the pandemic. And um, you know, we're really fortunate in this area. I talk about fortune, not luck. That there is a cultural hub, you know, in the Northwest where I think
Oh,
people have
yeah.
migrated to, that I really appreciate. I kind of miss it, especially during the pandemic. I missed a lot of that. That you could go downtown and you could have Lebanese food. You could see a Parisian band at Brasserie Montmartre.
Yeah, yeah.
You go down and have some Cajun stuff at Montage, you know, and then and you'd see a metal band at, you know, Satyricon. I mean, there were so many different things that you could do and see in Portland, and there are very few cities that sort of celebrate and honor that kind of diversity,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
uh,
It
and
was killer.
I'm hopeful that that is a return. I hope that, you know, yeah, I mean, um, yeah, well, yeah, you know, I've talked to a few people about this, and every time I get into the conversation, I feel like the old guy, you know, like, hey, kids, get off my lawn. But you know, the world's changing regardless, man. You know, and it's nice to think about bringing positivity to it.
Right on.
I think you do that with your music and your smile. You know,
Try to.
yeah, yeah.
Who knows? Do the best we can.
What's the perfect scenario for Michael B
Got
to
my
make?
got my
Oh,
got
there you
my
go.
Axis Bold's love shirt on, Hendrix.
So good, man. Yeah, that you know. Oh, have you seen Summer of Soul? We talked about that a little bit.
No, I've got to go.
Okay.
I've got. I'm gonna. I will
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
that's like there. You know, the huge focus on that, right? Is that you know, in '69 when Woodstock was happening in Harlem, they had that real focus
Oh yeah.
on soul music, and it was a I think they had 4 different weeks or 5 different weeks of that.
Yeah.
But that whole idea behind promoting peace and cultural appreciation and equality, you know, right now where things are really divisive, you know, it'd really be nice to see some of that again. So if somebody's out there able to make a peaceful revolution
Yeah,
about
man.
bringing some cultural, you know, sort of a
Yeah.
cultural revolution for sure, man.
Maybe the brothers would play again.
I would think that should happen. You know,
Who knows?
what's the perfect scenario for you guys?
Uh, a good festival or a good show. A little bit of money, so not for me, but so I can pay people.
Yeah,
Because that's the other thing. I don't want to. I got tired of losing money too.
I'll bet.
I want to be able to pay the band well. That's my thing.
Did you? I mean, I would think licensing in movies and TV that your music.
Oh yeah,
is,
we've done a lot. Yeah,
okay.
we've done lots of TV and radio. Done several shows. Let me see. It's on the website too. I know we did. Sexual Healing was a HBO thing,
Okay.
and they took one of our songs. It's all listed on the website on the history.
Yeah.
Done lots of movies and soundtracks. So
It seems like that would be a great avenue
Yeah.
for that band,
Yeah.
and that again that'll live on, right? You know.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're gigging live, having that kind of thing live around longer than you know,
Right.
is certainly legacy. And I've talked on this show about legacy, and so I'm going to put you on the spot. It doesn't have to be profound, but what is it that you would like to be remembered for?
Ooh, yeah. Remembered for good times, a smile. Hopefully, it brought some. Hopefully, it brought a smile to some people's face in whatever way I could have, whether it's music or any way. I guess that's about all.
You know, man, you know, I don't know if this is intentional, but I've been really fortunate that people like you have come across my path in my life. You know, I'm really, I feel fortunate, feel blessed because you've already achieved that. I mean, the smile and your kindness, your very gentle spirit, man. And
Well, right back at you, man. Ever since I met you, you were just this bubbly, positive, smiling guy, and you glow.
some people think it's a con, but
No, no,
I just can't help it, man. I love people. I love playing
not
music,
bullshit.
and
You glow.
thank you, buddy. I am grateful not only for you and your friendship, but also what you contribute, man. You make the world a better place, and so more people should take note from Michael Beach. If you're out there and you're looking to hear a good variety of music that Michael's talked about tonight, check out balady.com, that link down below. Again, if you're getting in here late and you've not done so, I would love it if you go to youtube.com. If you go to youtube.com/all access live with Kevin Rankin, hit that link where it says subscribe, hit the bell. You'll be reminded. You can go back and look at 214 other episodes of this show. Yeah, it's been an interesting year and a half, since the pandemic started. This is what I replaced live gigs with, and it's been cathartic. But again, like this, you and I never had an opportunity to sit down for an hour because we're always on the go to a gig or we're loading into something. And I hope that this is just a catalyst for you and I to be able to spend more time in person,
Absolutely.
So let's do that, man. We'll make that happen. And for those of you that are that came in late, it'll be at accesskevin.com in about 5 minutes. You can go back and watch this from the beginning. You can take note of Michael's pretty remarkable history. The fact that you had no musical background blows my mind, honestly. And that that you've adopted these languages and these relationships, these real, truly international, global relationships with people, where you've honored that music, in a really beautiful way. So I'm grateful for that authenticity, man. You're a pretty special dude.
Right back at you, Kevin. My pleasure.
Thanks again, folks. I'll be back here on Tuesday, a week from today, with Susie McNeil from Toronto, Canada. Cannot wait for you to see that girl's bubbly, smiley face. I think she has some really fun stories about performing with Steven Tyler and being on NBC with the great local Storm Large. So Tuesday we'll be back with her, and again, accesskevin.com for Michael Beach's interview in 5 minutes. Michael, thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Love you, man. Be well.